excited? Yeah, I'm excited. As Edward said, I'm an English professor. I teach academic writing, creative writing, literary analysis, and poetry. I have my PhD from the City University of New York. But before all this, I was a teenage mom. I remember when I first started college, I just wanted to get through those 15 weeks. I had no big plan for the future. I just wanted to survive the semester. But after a few classes, I gained some confidence, and I thought, okay, maybe I can do this. You know, maybe I can succeed in college. And I thought, okay, maybe I want to teach. So when a professor called me into his office and asked, Christine, what are you going to do with your future? What are you going to do after you leave college? I had my answer. I said, well, I think I want to go to graduate school, get my PhD, and become a professor like you. Now, this professor was really smart. He had a lot of data in his head. And he knew I'd been a teenage mom, and he also knew that 66% of mothers who begin their families as teenagers live in poverty. And it was true. My son and I did live below the poverty line at the time. And he also knew that 52% of teenage moms live with the help of some kind of federal assistance. And that was also true. My son and I were getting food stamps, and we were part of a federal program. So with these statistics in mind, he said to me, well, Christine, I get this be all you can be attitude. It's very positive. It's very admirable. But you have to be realistic. Graduate school is expensive, and it's a long haul. You can't go through years and years of graduate school and then come out with a degree, and you may or may not get a position. You just need a job to pay the bills. So I thanked him, and I left his office, and I thought, okay, he knows his data, but he doesn't know real teenage moms. Real teenage moms like Sacagawea. She was 17 when she had her son. She was a translator for Lewis and Clark. She took her infant with her on the expedition to the Pacific coast and back. She was the only woman on that expedition. I thought, he doesn't know teenage moms like Maya Angelou. She had her son when she was 16. And as you know, right, she went on to become a celebrated, even historic writer. And he didn't really know me. And I thought back to, even before I started college, started taking classes, to the orientation. And I remembered, you know, the professors coming in and out of that lecture hall. They were giving us information and details and just the tools we needed to be successful in college. But I specifically remember the last professor to come into that room, because he said, look around you. 80% of you will not be walking down that aisle at graduation 4 years from now. And I remember thinking, really? You mean this program has a 20% success rate? I was really sort of daunted, but I physically did look around me at the students in that lecture hall, and I thought, what's wrong with you people? I don't know where you're going to be in 4 years, but I'm going to be walking down that aisle with that diploma in my hand. I was 22, I was already divorced, I was a single mother of a 4-year-old, and I was on welfare. But I was determined. I knew I was going to be part of that 20% success rate. But I was wrong. I was the 80%. And the reason I was the 80% had nothing to do with natural talent or intelligence or IQ or determination or grit or any of those success factors that we like to talk about today. But it had everything to do with my personal journey as having been a former teenage mom and a single mom. I had 2 jobs. I was raising a son. So I actually did get my degree, of course, after 11 semesters. So it took me 11 semesters instead of 8. But still, I couldn't be part of that 20% success rate. I'd like to take a look at some data for this college, Westchester Community College. And this study follows the 2012 student cohort. So that's the 2012 body of incoming students. So in 2012, we had 2,231 students coming into the college. And of those 2,231, 330 graduated with their associate's degree within 3 years. So that's a 14.8% success rate. Now, 14.8%, that's a little scary if you're an incoming freshman, right? Because that means you have an 85.2% chance of not getting your degree within 3 years. But wait, the study expands that notion of the successful student a little bit. The study includes also the transfer students. So these are students who come to the two-year college with the idea of getting the associate's degree, but then decide to transfer to the four-year college. So they're still engaged in the academic process. They're still on a track to get their degree. They've just transferred a bit early. So we've got 398 of the transfer students for a total of 17.8%. So now we can add together those two success percentages for a total of 32.6% total success rate. So that's a little bit more heartening. But wait, the study expands this idea of the successful student even further to include the so-called persisters. I was a persister. This is a student who comes to the college but doesn't get the degree within 3 years, but they're still taking college classes. They're still on that track. They're still active students. Maybe they changed their major and they still need to take classes, but for whatever reason, they're still engaged, even though it's more than 3 years. So if we include the persisters at 460 for a 20.6% and add all those percentages together, now we have a 53.2% total success story in the 2012 cohort. So that's a big difference. That's more than half, right? So that's a far cry from the 14.8% that we initially started with. But what about that 46.8% that are not part of the total success story? Who are those students? Well, these could be students who leave college to raise families because of illness or to earn money to pay for college, but they come back, they take their courses, and they do eventually get their degree. It could also include students who come to the college, take a few classes, and then decide they have enough information to go on with their careers. Maybe they start up their own business or they engage in a trade. In some ways, this 53.2% total success story misrepresents those students who don't fit in. Statistics. As a college professor, I tell my students, you have to back up your details, right? You have to back up your claims with surveys, with facts, and with statistics. Statistics like 40% of teen mothers finish high school, or only 1.5% of us will get our BA by the time we're 30. According to these statistics, that professor was likely to be right. It wasn't likely that I would get a graduate degree. It wasn't likely that I would get a job as a professor. And it's not likely that I'd be standing on the stage delivering this presentation to you now. But statistics are useful if we're going to use them to channel resources to where they need them. But they're not so useful if we're going to label people with statistics or limit their hopes or dreams or aspirations with statistics. When I think back to that conversation I had with the professor, I don't feel very good about it. In fact, I don't think I handled it very well. I should have told him about Sacagawea. I should have told him about Maya Angelou. I should have told him about Ann Dunham. She started her college education as a teenage mom, and then she went on to get her PhD in anthropology from the University of Hawaii while raising her son, Barack Obama. I should have told him about me. I should have told him that you can't use statistics to put people into a box or to label or define them. It's not right. You can't use statistics to limit their goals in life. So I guess if there's any message here for you, it's that if someone tries to use a statistic to define you, whether it be a statistic about your race, your ethnicity, your sexual preference, your gender, or whether or not you speak English as a first language, don't give them a pass. Tell them, don't look at me as a statistic. Look at the unique person standing in front of you. Look at me. Look at me.